Hey, I'm just making a little video about the comparison of the Pixel 10 Pro zoomed in compared to a DSLR. This is sort of a hobby photographer type one, T5i, Canon T5i. And this is a very common lens. It is a 55 to 250 millimeter lens. And I'm basically going to be comparing it zoomed in all the way. So let's start looking at these photos. So here in the backyard, we have the Canon on the left, Pixel on the right. We could already see that the depth of field shallower on the Canon, whereas the Pixel, everything's kind of in focus here. And what I found is that with the 250 millimeter lens on the Canon all the way zoomed in, that's equivalent to about the 15 times zoom on the Pixel. And the Pixel has the ultra wide, which is 0.5, single times zoom camera, which goes from 1 all the way up to 4.9. After 5, that's the telephoto that kicks in from 5 all the way up to 100. And yeah, so moving on. So zoomed in all the way on the DSLR on the left. By the way, this was on auto mode. Had I done manual, my shots with a couple tries here and there would have been I had it on auto white balance and all this. This is very much to compare a direct point and shoot type comparison between the Pixel and the DSLR. That being said, on manual mode, this DSLR shot would have been much nicer. The grass would have been a warmer color. It's pretty cold here. It's overexposed. Yeah, but if we get into the detail of this PVC pipe, which is being used as an agility pole, we'll see that the numbers and characters that are on the edge here remain crisper than what we see on the Pixel. Okay. Also, on the Pixel, we have the word harmony here that's in focus. It's not in this DSLR shot. Actually, I should move to this one here. That's more of a direct comparison. And we do see that the Pixel shots shrink in size. So 4.7 megabytes. Once it zooms in digitally, it just crops it. So 3.3 megabytes, zoomed in more to 2.2 megabytes. Yeah, so once again, let's zoom into those characters there. And yeah, they remain more clear on the DSLR at 15 times zoom. This one here is sitting at 100 times on the right. And on the left, obviously the DSLR, so that's 100%. This is 100% on the Pixel. But once I start zooming in more, yeah, which one has more detail? It's kind of different. The DSLR, you could see more of a difference in the colors. The Pixel kind of very, very similar type color. In the yellows, it's definitely darker. I'd say that the Pixel kind of more the individual hairs, you kind of see them somewhat better. Of course, a shallower depth of field, so the brick is out of focus, whereas on the Pixel, it's more in focus. But you know what? Honestly, like either of these shots, if you want to have them all the way zoomed in, are acceptable. Yeah, looking at the vines and the leaves, the lines rather in the leaves, the veins is the word I'm looking for. The hairs on here, on the cucumber plant here. Anyway, so let's go on to another one. Whoops. And this would have been at 30. So 100 times, 30 times. That wasn't in there. This one is here. The squirrel had already left by the time I got the Pixel out. Yeah, so the shot is overexposed, but the Pixel would definitely get more of everything in, at the kind of right light balance, sort of an HDR-y sort of shot, whereas this one here, even if I had turned down the exposure slightly, the back would have still been blown out. The colors are better on the Pixel than the auto white balance, I'd say, on the DSLR here. Something I noticed was that the detail on the DSLR here, though, is still better. You see all these little individual dots in the wood, probably from the manufacturing process of getting those 2x4s cut or 2x6s. Yeah, of course, shallower depth of field, whereas the Pixel, kind of everything is more in focus, as it has, is it 1.8 f-stop? I didn't try to get this airplane shot because this was just a fluke thing. Airplane was passing overhead, 100 times zoom. It was really hard to get that plane in the shot. I am lucky that it even happened, because as this thing is whizzing by in the sky, you're zoomed in 100 times, and it's just, you have a little picture-in-picture thing where you could kind of select where it is within the shot that you want to get. But yeah, it was pretty tricky to get the shot. And of course, as seen in previous photos taken online, it kind of just, does an approximation, like, is this engine really supposed to be right here, or should it be higher up? Like, like, you could tell it's a plane, but it's not a great shot of a plane zoomed in all the way to 100. This shot of my dog was taken, he was all the way over here. So this is quite impressive given the distance. But it is definitely sort of, you can tell there's an algorithm behind this. Yeah, just it's clearly not as a regular camera would have taken the shot. Okay, so this one here, this is the better approximation, 15 times zoom, whereas this one was 10 times. Of course, yeah, the shallower depth of field, if that's kind of what you like. On the Pixel, I'm not sure if you put in portrait mode, if it would even, be able to distinguish sort of the depth, right? But it is interesting, though, that even at 1.8, the f-stop, there's not kind of more depth of field, but I suppose this is what happens when you zoom in 15 times digitally to a 50 megapixel shot. Yeah, so if we look at some of the details here, the leaves, you be the judge of it. I'd say the Pixel is crisper on this one. Maybe that's just, where my focus ended up sitting. This one here, I definitely like the DSLR more. I know the Pixel, when I shot this, and was kind of disappointed with the lack of detail. Let's say if we zoom into the screw right here, you can see where the, it's a square head on the screw, whereas this one you really can't tell. It's just kind of there, and it just looks kind of, over processed. There's not as much kind of grain detail. So I would say the Pixel is not as good as the DSLR there. Again, everything's in focus. This one of my dog is the pause I noticed. So DSLR is better, but you know what? Like, it's still gonna take the shots on the Pixel if you need them, but not as good as the detail that I get with the telephoto lens on the DSLR. One more thing I'm going to do is actually compare the Pixel shot to the Pixel shot. What I mean by that is I'm going to compare the 50 megapixel to the 12 megapixel, which is what it takes it at default. So both of these shots were taken obviously at the same place and time. And so zoomed in all the way, you see this shot is 6.9 megabytes, whereas the 12 megapixel is 2.6 megabytes. So you see that there's obviously a size difference here, right? So I'd have to zoom into 214 times-ish, 200 for it to be approximately the same size. But yeah, let's just actually look at some of the text here. And, in the 12 megapixel shot, there's clearly some processing and stuff here. It's grainier on the 50 megapixel shot here. And yeah, generally you'll see that is sort of the recurring thing. There is more grain. However, with some of the processing, some of the details come out a little bit better sometimes on the 12 megapixel shot. So, for example, if we come here on the memory card with a very tiny text, we'll see that kind of looks washed out. And I do wonder if that's because when you hold it for a 50 megapixel shot, it's almost like it's night mode. Like you have to hold it steady, and there's that little like ball that kind of rotates in the thing just for a second, as it's kind of, I think it's taking kind of a burst mode, which assembles and makes sort of the best shot with that information that it gathers. But yeah, if we look at the word memory here, let's see. Does one honestly look better than the other? I'm not sure that the 50 megapixel is worth it, honestly. I'm not really seeing. Oh, sorry, those were actually the same shot that I was comparing, just for the last couple seconds there. Okay, so let's go back to here. So memory, yeah. So the 50 on the left, 12 on the right. You make the call, right? Which one is better? Honestly, they're kind of similar. It's just I'd say that the one that has been processed, the 12 megapixel, it's more contrasty. It's like the lines are a little bit thicker, whereas the 50, yeah, thinner lines. Yeah, let's just look somewhere else on the camera here. Shoot, went back to past photo. It's honestly pretty similar. So I'm not sure if the extra storage space is worth it unless you, for some reason, actually do need the full 50 megapixels, because, guys, like these are pretty similar, pretty comparable. Yeah. So yeah, honestly, this little magnifying glass thing here, I'd say it's crisper in the 12 megapixel shot compared to the 50. That's a little bit more full of, just grain blur, almost a haze kind of thing, right? Yeah, so take that as it is. Do whatever you want with that information. All right, cheers.